Hey, it's Angelo Caruso, and I've got another presentation lesson for you. This one is on the most difficult part of any presentation, which can be the middle of the presentation. This is when everyone's attention lags. This is when you get a little distracted yourself now that you're not as nervous because the beginning of the presentation is over. And of course, you're at the very delicate area of trying to stage what's called the call to action, which is the final part of the presentation. So this is where the Q&A happens. It can be a very difficult section of your presentation, this middle section. So I have some tips for you that I think will be very useful. So grab a pen and let's run them down. So it doesn't matter if your presentation is 20 minutes or a 45-minute keynote. This is the time when it's important that you have an interesting bit of content for your people. All of your presentation should be interesting. But during the middle, you should really be original. Do not try to put forth anything that's been regurgitated by anybody else. Don't stay away from cliches. A cliche is best defined by a phrase that everyone knows how to end without you actually ending it for them. For example, a stitch in time saves 9. You know how to finish that, right? A pot should never call the kettle black. If the other person knows what you're going to say before you say it, it's a cliche, it's trite, it's overused, and you should cut it out of your presentation. So, interesting content is a hard thing for me to describe to you and define to you, but all I can say is it helps if your presentation is original, meaning you made it up yourself. You didn't get it from any place else. And this helps if you just have a real intellectual property that you're mining to help people understand how to do something. For example, I'm teaching you presentation skills in this talk, and hopefully you never have the sense that this information could have come from anywhere else. This is me talking. I've authored books on this subject. I've been interviewed extensively on the art of presenting, and this is my content. So I'm trying to present it in a video context, which makes it even more interesting. So that's the first thing. It's got to be original. It's got to be interesting content. The second thing I want you to do during the middle of your presentation is talk in titles. Now this is important because we're staging this call to action that happens in the third or final section of your presentation. And by talking in titles, I mean it's almost like forecasting the future of something you're going to talk about later, maybe even something that you're going to try to sell the audience. And make no mistake, the call to action is usually some sort of psychological sale, if not a monetary transaction. So let's say, for example, we're talking about selling today, and I've got a program called 22 Sales Closes That Work, which I do. It's an ebook, it's an audio program. And so what I might do is before I tell you I have a product called 22 Sales Closes That Work, I'll actually start talking in titles, using that title, and this technique is called weaving, right? So I'm weaving this language to you, and you don't even know really why you're getting it at first. It just seems like I'm talking in titles, and then eventually you'll get to the point where at the end, you may not even be consciously aware that I set you up or staged. And when I say set you up, I don't mean it in a bad way, but I staged the call to action. I took you to a place that I wanted you to go that I thought would be good for you. You can always say no, right, to the call to action if you care to. But I'll make it harder for you because I'm setting the stage and I'm weaving. I'm talking in titles. Let me demonstrate how this works. For example, I might say something like, listen, salespeople, you need to have at least 22 sales closes that work, right? There are others, but I teach 22, and I want you to have these 22. I want you to be thinking about them. So I've used the title of the program. I can also say, well, you need sales closes that work, which is also part of the title, right? I can say sales closes, which is part of the title. Closes that work is another part of the title. And if I keep weaving these, not too obviously now, you don't want to be transparent about the weaving process. But if you do it in a way that's subtle and a little bit iterative, meaning you keep revisiting it, later on when it's time for you to close and you say, now listen, I've been talking to you about 22 sales closes that work, and some of you have been trying to keep up with me and write them down. I want you to know I have an audio product. It's a CD, and you hold up the CD and you say, it's called 22 Sales Closes That Work. Now don't wink and say, I was Yeah, see, I set you up. Don't say something like that. Just let them make the connection that you've been talking about this the whole time, and here it is, ready for them, ready to buy, and packaged nicely, and you're already brand familiar with it because you've been branding the title throughout your presentation, especially in this middle section. So far we've got a couple techniques that we're using. One is that your content in the middle of the presentation has to be original, absolutely original, not copied from somebody else. If you do copy anything in your presentation, you want to make sure that you provide what's called attribution and give credit where credit is due. So you want to provide original content. The second thing is you want to talk in titles. And the third is to actually use attribution, to actually copy somebody during the presentation, but in a way that sets up your close or sets up your call to action. I'll show you how to do this right now with the providing attribution. I might provide, for example, a third-party testimonial. Somebody in the room, for example, that's done business with me before, and I'll say, Adele over there has done business with me before. Adele, would you please stand up and tell everybody a little bit about how you know me and the nature of your relationship with me. I've called Adele or someone like Adele up on stage with me to talk to me and share with the audience her success stories, which were brought about because I was able to help her out. This is a fantastic thing for Adele because she gets to affirm that she made the right decision by doing business with me. It's a good thing for the audience because they know they would be doing the right thing by signing up with my program or buying one of my products. And certainly it's good for my business when someone helps me close a sale. So I'm actually attributing the fact that this works to somebody named Adele in this example. I can also use testimonials from other people. For example, I might name another famous author that has written about this and advocates this certain technique, right? And then I tell you that person's name and he wrote about it in such and such a book, so that provides attribution. See, the attribution is good because it means I'm not the only one saying it. It means other people are talking about this as well. Very nice. So, 3 techniques so far for the middle section of the program. The first is you want to use original content. The second is you want to talk in titles. The third is you want to provide attribution. And the fourth, bonus tip now for the middle section of the program, is this idea of trial closing. Now, trial closing is one of the 22 ways that you can close a presentation. But trial closes are very effective because they're not asking the audience or the prospects for any money or any kind of commitment or any purchase order. It's simply asking them to agree with what you're saying. And you can get that agreement by asking very simple questions. I call them yes questions, and a yes question is a question that you can easily nod your head yes to as you say it, and it invites anybody in the audience to actually agree with you and also shake their head yes or nod their head yes. This is a good thing. Again, this sets the tone for the call to action because you don't want to wait until the very end of the presentation to finally get someone to do something with you during the presentation. Get them to do a bunch of small things in the beginning of the presentation, in the middle of the presentation, and then they won't mind so much doing the big thing for you at the end of your presentation. So, if you want to use this technique, this idea of trial closes, you will ask questions, yes questions, like this. Does this sound good to you so far? Or, how about this one? Are you with me so far? Do you like what you're hearing? Does this work for you guys? You know, I just keep nodding my head yes, like a bobblehead in the, in a car, right? And people get with the program, man. They love it. Don't overdo this technique because they get tired of you asking rhetorical questions from the platform or from your stage in the front of the room. But just enough times to make sure that they're with you and that they're psychologically in sync with you before you go into the close in the final section of your presentation. I hope these tips have been useful to you as you work your way through the presentation, particularly the middle section. More tips on presenting at michaelangelocaruso.com, and let me close with another demonstration of talking in titles. You know, this content and the content that you've been watching in this video series and maybe in some of my other pieces is supporting a new product launch that I have called Present Like a Pro. It's a DVD program that I produced and recorded at Walsh College in Troy, Michigan a few months ago. And it's turned into quite a little project. We had it professionally edited by the folks at M1 Studios, and it's quite good. I give up a lot of my best techniques in this 3-hour program. And indeed, at the end of watching Present Like a Pro, you will present like a pro. So that's how you talk in titles. I hope this has been useful to you. My name is Angelo Caruso. More information on presenting, branding, becoming an industry expert at my website, which is michelangelocaruso.com.